All right, we are live. What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman. It's Halloween, so I'm wearing what my Halloween costume was. Is Are we actually live or what? Stupid StreamYard. I think we're good to go. No, we weren't live. Of course we weren't because StreamYard sucks. What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman going live right after the primetime Monday night matchup here in week number 8. We went live last night after the Bills game, and I decided to run it back tonight. Doesn't have to be the Buffalo Bills that we're talking about. We can talk about anything NFL related because a lot has gone down here on this Monday alone. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. I should have added more pizzazz. I think that's what I should have done for the overlay. I didn't even think about it. That we could be looking at right now. But yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals go out and get smacked by the Cleveland Browns in Monday Night Football. If you're wondering what I'm wearing, this is my Halloween costume, or was my Halloween costume over the weekend. It's a sloth. Don't bash it. All right, sloths are cool. I'm probably gonna have a heat stroke. I'm basically wearing a onesie right now. The thing is, it's a onesie. I'm gonna pass out, but we're gonna kill this. We're gonna blow by and talk about this game tonight. Talk about the other news that went down because tomorrow is the trade deadline as well, and I know there's a lot of big names out there that are thinking to be are going to be moved. So we definitely have to talk about all these things. Kim, happy to see you. Happy Halloween, Kim. Thank you for popping in. Jake, nice to see you, man. The cave sloth. Yeah, I mean, I guess for tonight, I'm going to be the overheated cave sloth that might pass out midstream. And my water is old and pretty much empty. So I'm not prepared, as you can tell. But unlike yesterday, I do have a little bit of a banner with the score in the corner. I've never really done a post-game live stream like this other than last night. So I'm still trying to figure that out, how this goes. But apparently the Bengals, they go out there and we got a question right off the bat. Any names hit you for a potential Bills trade? The first name that comes to mind of a potential Bills trade, and this isn't something that we'd be going out and getting, but a potential Bills trade in my mind could be Zach Moss actually getting shipped out. I don't think we go out and trade for anybody, honestly. I know we've been kicking the tires on a lot of running backs, but I personally think if a transaction goes down with the Buffalo Bills by tomorrow at 4 p.m., it'll be Zach Moss getting moved. That's to me what I think is going to happen, if anything. I think the one move we could make down the line, which I don't think we'll be eager to do, because I think it's pretty much wraps at this point. It's getting Odell Beckham Jr. to the Buffalo Bills. It's something that obviously has been in talks for a little while now. I know Von Miller has made it pretty apparent, at least from an outside perspective, that he's got him locked in coming to the Bills once he's healthy. So that's the move that I think will be big for us this season. Otherwise, I'm not thinking that much else really goes down. Jake says, "Yeah, I know. I saw you that you did one last night too, and it's definitely an odd. It's odd. I don't know why, because usually I'm so used to being able to kind of collect my thoughts, and look at the stats and watch the game back and kind of collect myself. But last night I didn't give myself a chance to really do that. It was just kind of a raw reaction. It was a little bit tougher. It's a little bit of a different beast, and that's what I'm going to try and continue to practice doing." By talking about this game tonight. And, happy Halloween to Joe Burrow, because it was absolutely a scary performance by the Cleveland's defensive front. I mean, Myles Garrett showed up wearing like a Grim Reaper suit, and he absolutely went to town on that offensive line that has been supposedly upgraded but struggling throughout the entire season. I'm not too sure what they're going to be able to do without Jamar Chase. Apparently he's not going on IR, so you'd like to think that it's going to be a short-term absence. But at the same time, I feel like it's something that you really can't force Jamar back in with. If he goes out there and he re-injures it severely, that's a big loss. And obviously the first game without Jamar, it could be dangerous for the Cincinnati Bengals. I said last year their entire run was pretty much because of Jamar Chase's explosive ability on the outside, forcing defenses to respect his ability after the catch. That's what the Bengals predicated themselves on. And that's why I think, a big reason why I thought they made it to the Super Bowl. And now without him, we see the trials and tribulations of trying to move the ball with a poor offensive line, without Jamar. So I wonder if this is going to be a common theme. Understandably, that this was at least on paper, a matchup nightmare up front in the trenches for the Bengals. But still, it's not going to be something that, blows over easy. DF Forever says Kareem Hunt for Moss in a 4th-round pick. That would be my trade. Hey, look, I'm there for it. If we go out and get Kareem Hunt, I'll be happy. I'm not really going to be unhappy with any move that we make unless for some reason it's egregious, which is not in the realm of possibility when you have Brandon Beane as your general manager. But I just don't think there's any running back out there that's realistically in our trade range that would really upgrade our ground attack more than what Devin Singletary offers to the table. I think the only thing we could improve on, is the ability to catch passes out of the backfield from our running backs and maybe the threat that's posed there. But otherwise, I think our ground game is just as efficient as it's going to get, with Devin Singletary. It's just a matter of the offensive line getting the push up front, which, of course, has been the story of the last few years, and that's exactly what we struggle with. Jake says hip injuries are nothing to play with, man. Chase is a game changer. Yeah, we saw it, man. I mean, T. Higgins on the outside, I thought he was going to be enough tonight to, for the Bengals that have been getting red hot lately to get the job done. And it's, it was something that kind of shocked me seeing Joe Burrow as stagnant as he was. He took a couple shots down to T earlier in the game, and T was kind of having a hard time getting separation. He did end up having that 41-yard touchdown at the end of the game, which kind of was the saving grace for us thinking that T. Higgins couldn't be the standalone outside guy. But they're going to have to really start to utilize T and lean on him, because even if Jamar returns, like Jake mentions, Chase may not be 100%. They're going to have to start feeding T. Higgins, which I think, I think he can handle it. I 100% think T. Higgins is the man that can handle it. I have T. Higgins as I had him going into the season like a top 14 wide receiver. I've always loved T. Higgins. I've always thought he can be a wide receiver one, and he's put on display his abilities in one-on-one. And even when he's in double coverage, this guy is a freak of nature at the point of attack. So he definitely can handle this type of role. It's just a matter of finding a way to get him the ball, which is different because obviously, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are different receivers. So they're going to have to get creative. And whether they can handle it or not, I guess it's going to be a task for Zach Taylor to really sit back, get back to the drawing board and really figure out. And I don't think I have faith in Zach Taylor to be able to do that, if I'm being honest. I think Zach Taylor is, I cannot believe that, all of the things that, came and played into a factor for the Bengals making to the Super Bowl last year, the fact that they had no offensive line, the fact that Zach Taylor was their head coach. I mean, all these contributing factors making me think like there's no way they can go as far as they did. It really baffled my mind. And I just don't know if Zach Taylor is going to be able to figure this out. I don't know if I have faith in him with the way the offensive line is playing. So the Bengals are going to have to really sit down and do some self-evaluation after this matchup and figure out how they're going to move the ball without Jamar Chase. They're going to have to figure out how to pose a threat downfield without Jamar Chase, how to pose an explosive ability on the outside. And it's scary. I would be scared if I was a Cincinnati Bengals fan right now because Joe Mixon sucks. The offensive line can't block. And now without Jamar, things can get dark. And that defense is playing exactly the way you would expect it to, considering what it's actually comprised of. It's Trey Hendrickson and DJ Reader, who I think is injured, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, that defense is it's playing the way I really expected it to last season. And now, with the injuries in the secondary, they lost Chidobe Awuzie tonight. I know Trey Flowers, who was his replacement, also went down. So they're struggling bad. This Bengals team is struggling. And who knows if these injuries start to stack up, Jamar's not able to come back. We could see the Cleveland Browns. And I said this prior to the season. I would not be shocked if the Cleveland Browns somehow snuck their way into a wild card spot just because of the AFC North and the way that it's comprised. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I have no faith in whatsoever. We have the Cincinnati Bengals, who are a roster that's supposed to be explosive, but now with the injuries racking up, obviously things are not going to plan. So, they can be falling out of the playoff race. And had the Bengals not lost the Browns, the Browns had a very easy first 6 or 7 weeks. They lost to the Jets on an onside kick. That probably should have been a victory. They almost beat the Chargers. Cade York missed a game-winning field goal. I mean, these are 2 wins that can be swaying the record right now tremendously and have them second in the AFC North. And I think once, if Deshaun Watson comes back, it's either boom or bust, right? Everybody has their own opinions on Deshaun Watson. But actually, everybody should have one singular opinion on Deshaun Watson, if we're being honest. But nevertheless, when Deshaun Watson comes back, I feel like the Browns are either going to be the best team in the AFC North by a mile, or it's going to be a complete dumpster fire. Deshaun's not able to return to form, and they struggle. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, I think, is doing a fine job. He's game managing at points. He makes decisions that you really scratch your head at, but he's doing everything he has to. The way this team is built, that's the type of quarterback you need, or that's pretty much the only type of quarterback you need. Baker Mayfield pretty much just had to do what Jacoby Brissett is doing right now. And obviously between the shoulder injury, the mental side of the game really dragging him down, he wasn't able to do so. So who knows what the Browns will be like when Deshaun Watson comes back, where they'll be in the playoff hunt, because I do think they'll certainly be in the hunt by that time period. I genuinely believe that. But there's a lot of comments I want to get to, guys. I'm kind of not paying attention because I'm babbling, but let's talk about it. Joey says we need an offensive lineman and a safety. I don't think we're going to get any offensive line depth. If we do, it's going to be somebody that probably doesn't see the field, if I'm being honest. Not many teams like to give up offensive line depth at the deadline just because of how valuable it is. We've seen how important it is to protect your franchise quarterback over these last few years. And despite the fact that the Bengals, who, of course, got smacked tonight, defied the laws of physics last season of getting to where they got to without a very, very good offensive line. I don't think it's really replicatable. So I just don't see any teams giving up their offensive line depth. And with that being said, I think we probably are going to be seeing the unit we have for the remainder of the season. The safety is an interesting one. I know some people are talking about Eddie Jackson from the Bears. It appears Chicago is going out and having a fire sale after they traded Robert Quinn last week. And then they have Roquan Smith crying at the press conference that his buddy just got traded. And then he gets shipped out because he didn't want to be there anymore. And he goes to the Ravens for a second, a fifth. And our boy A.J. Klein was also thrown in there. So A.J. Klein is now a Bear. So interesting transaction there. Something I want to touch on a little bit later on in the stream as well. But I know Eddie Jackson could potentially be on the radar. There's a couple other safeties out there that I've been seeing rumored. Potentially being an option for the Buffalo Bills. But I think they have confidence in Damar Hamlin. I'm not going to lie. I think they do. When you pair him next to Jordan Poyer, I think they have confidence. Jake says not a lot of positions that we really would. Hip injuries. Honestly, I don't remember what that was referring to, Jake. I'm not going to lie because I've been babbling. Mikey says Bengals fell off the earth. Yeah, they didn't fall off the earth. What happened was the Bengals weren't last year. This is an ironic comment. Last year, the Bengals were not on Earth. They were up on cloud 9, and they rode that cloud all the way to the Super Bowl. What's happened now is the Bengals have actually fallen back to Earth. I think this is actually opposite, right? The Bengals were playing way above expectations. They defied every single odd and got to where they got to last season, and therefore they were on cloud 9. They were above the sky. Now I think they're falling back to Earth. So that's actually an ironic comment, but I get what you're saying. And you're entirely right. I mean, just things have collapsed for the Bengals up to this point. Joey says, are you talking about that pretty boy quarterback from the Jets? He don't want to play football. He wants to be a GQ model. I'm talking about Joe Burrow, but we can talk about Zach Wilson too. Zach Wilson's a guy that he's not cut out, if we're being honest. Zach Wilson's a player that, the Jets thought they could lean on with, the physical talent, the upside with the arm strength, very creative ball, very creative. With the ball in his hands, and he's just not turned out to be the guy that they thought he would be. They had Breece Hall, and Breece Hall became the identity for the New York Jets over the last few weeks, and that was really propelling the Jets offense, and Zach Wilson pretty much had to be a game manager at best, and he was struggling to do that. And once Breece Hall goes down with an injury, that's their identity. They need to figure something out. So they go and trade for James Robinson, and that trade told me two things. When they trade for James Robinson, they're thinking like, you know what? We believe we have a chance at a playoff run. We want to go get a guy that we think could, potentially take on the workload that Breece Hall had originally. And that's what they do. They go and trade for a guy that's on a contract year. He's going to run his ass off when he gets to the Jets and he's acclimated. They're going to give him a large workload. At least I think so, in my opinion. And it also tells me not only are they trading for a guy on a contract year, they're trying to make a playoff push. It also tells me that they don't believe Zach Wilson can pick up that slack. They don't think Zach Wilson's the guy. They don't think he's capable to put this offense on his back and pass consistently if the run game isn't working. And that's why they went and got James Robinson. I think if they felt more confident in Zach Wilson, they would have been just completely fine with, just dropping Breece Hall, being done with it, throwing him on IR and just moving on with their day. But obviously James Robinson was their move. And I think they're going to be a ground game or bust type of team because Zach Wilson, he looked terrible. He looked terrible this week. He had a couple of interceptions. You're just like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Zach? What kind of play are you trying to make? I mean, at points he was just trying to throw the ball away and he couldn't even do that right. So that's concerning. The Jets have done a fantastic job rebuilding up to this point. They had a ton of cap space. They paid the right guys. They drafted the right players this past season. Things have been going well, but unfortunately, the most important position on the team, being the quarterback position, is something they still have to figure out. So, the Jets they're in an odd spot, if we're being honest. That Breece Hall injury really threw a wrench into their season, if I'm being honest. Andrew, what's going on, man? Let's see you in here. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to touch on everything. Joe Burrow just wanted to be Zach Wilson for Halloween this year. That's ironic. I didn't even read this comment, but you're right. Joe Burrow to be fair, Joe Burrow really, he wasn't doing anything mentally that I thought was his fault. He just struggled because he was under so much stress all game. He didn't have Jamar Chase, who of course I think is pretty much the standalone reason why that offense has ever been as explosive as it is. And with that being said, that's funny because he did struggle just as much as Zach Wilson did, regardless of the reason. Mikey says it's amazing how much a team can change in less than a year. Both Super Bowl teams are underperforming. Yeah, watching the Super Bowl, both the Bengals and the Rams didn't look like two Super Bowl teams. It didn't look like a game in which the two best teams in football were playing in. And I felt like that from before the game even started. I didn't think either of those teams were genuinely the best teams in football, at least based on the way they were playing. I think the Rams last year, at least on paper, were definitely capable of being that champion that they ended up being, but they weren't playing like it at points. That's for sure. I mean, they were a Jaquiski Tart interception drop from losing the NFC Championship to Jimmy Garoppolo. So, both of those teams struggled in their own right, and they didn't. Neither of them actually looked like they belonged, where they ended up, right? Joey says, how many games is Deshaun Watson suspended for? Deshaun Watson returns after their bye week, which is week 12. So week 13, he returns to play the Houston Texans, his old football team. Tell me that wasn't scripted. Jake says there's going to be a lot of teams in the hunt graphic this year for both conferences. The in the hunt graphic is going to be massive. The in the hunt graphic is going to be very long. The way this year is going. A lot of teams are underperforming. And a lot of teams are, exceeding expectations. So it's created this big mass of just average, mediocre football, which is going to be the cause for this big in the hunt graphic. I mean, we're talking about teams, like the Cleveland Browns who could sneak into that realm of in the hunt. We're talking about teams like the New England Patriots, who I think, unfortunately, no matter how bad their team seems to be, always seem to find a way into trying to sneak into a playoff spot. So I think they'll be in the hunt. Excuse me. Of course, the Miami Dolphins will probably be second in the division, so they'll always be in the conversation. The AFC in the hunt graphic it's going to be a fun one to read, as is the NFC, if we're being honest. That's funny. DF says offensive lineman trades are rare near the deadline. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think the offensive line trade near the deadline is just something it just doesn't happen so often, just because teams just don't like to trade away their depth. That's what I'm saying. So Joey says, well, we saw Jordan Poyer went off and they attacked the young secondary for 38 yards. It's not going to work with all rookies. You're totally right. I think once Trey White returns, going back on the trading for a safety thing, I think once he returns, they're going to be more than confident in their secondary. I 100% think that once Trey White's back and Jordan Poyer, as long as he's healthy, so I'm having a brain fart, I think they'll be more than confident in having Damar Hamlin back there with those two guys there to help him out. And Dane Jackson, Dane Jackson's been playing like a stud too. So, it might be nice to think, we can go and fill out that second safety spot with Micah Hyde out. But at the end of the day, you still got Trey White. Dane Jackson's playing well. Teron Johnson, Jordan Poyer. I think these guys are enough to supplement for the loss of Micah Hyde and really help out Damar Hamlin where he may need it. And Damar Hamlin's a dog, man. That dude goes to hit. He knows how to play the safety position, and he does not back down, to really any task. So to his credit, I think he's earned the spot. And I don't really feel the need to go out and trade for a guy to fill his role, if I'm being honest. DF says it's possible the Bears trade Josh Rock for a second. Yeah, the Bears, I feel like are, anybody on the Chicago Bears that's not named Justin Fields is probably on the block. They're a team that are looking to really, really go out there and, stack up their draft for next season. The capital that they have at the moment is through the roof. They have a ton of cap space. They're in a similar situation to what the Jets were in just about a year ago. The Jets had a ton of cap space. They had a ton of draft picks, and they hit on a lot of their picks. They also, like I was saying earlier, they paid a lot of the right guys, and the Jets are in the position that they're in right now. And I think the Chicago Bears have a great opportunity to go out and kind of replicate that same type of path. Whether or not that actually happens, I guess we'll see. But I do think that it's possible that the Chicago Bears have something brewing over there, especially with the way Justin Fields. The biggest thing between the Jets and the Bears right now is that if hypothetically the Bears go out and hit on all their draft picks and, pay the right guys the same way the Jets did, at least the Bears appear to have their franchise quarterback. He's improving and, trending in that direction, whereas the Jets, as we were talking about, are not quite there yet. It seems like they're definitely behind the 8 ball in that category. Lucas, what's going on, man? Got here late, but the dope sloth costume. Thank you. This is what I was wearing for Halloween this weekend, and it's literally a whole ass onesie. Like, I'm gonna pass out on stream, and I have like no water in here, and I'm going to pass out. But that's what we do. We're on the grind in here. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's no water in here. I don't know why I even bothered. Joey says Micah Hyde's neck injury is long term. I don't think he'll be here much longer, or player if they I don't know if this will be Micah Hyde's last year. I want to hear some thoughts on that. I'm not sure if this is going to be Micah Hyde's. Well, I mean, does Micah Hyde retire after the season? How old is he? Is he 30 years old? Who's to say that he's going to retire after an injury like this? I mean, it's a serious one. Some guys may not feel comfortable returning. He's 31. He was born on December 31st. So this man is going to be 32 years old by the time the season is over. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd rule out the possibility of Micah Hyde potentially calling it quits after this injury. But late night, what's going on? Hopefully we get Jordan back soon. We talked to Sal Capaccio and Kyle Trimble tonight, and both Matt Milano and JP have to put. I heard my dad told me that Matt Milano got hurt. I think it was a pectoral or a what was the injury? What was the Matt Milano injury? I didn't even know he got hurt. And I'm like, seriously? And funny you mentioned it. When I was live last night, I looked up the follow-up on the Jordan Poyer injury, and it wasn't a promising report. It wasn't encouraging at all. So, that Matt Milano thing, which I wasn't even considering, oblique injury. Okay. Yeah, not good. No, not good. Matt Milano has played like a top 6 linebacker this season. He's been all over the place, sideline to sideline, playing great in coverage. He's been fighting at the line of scrimmage, forcing tackles for losses. He's been a force. He's been a force all over the place, man. And losing him, I think losing Matt Milano at this point, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but losing Matt Milano at this point, I think would be the third worst injury we could suffer behind Josh or Diggs. Of course, it's not good for any player to go down with an injury on any football team, but in terms of importance to a team, that's a conversation, of course, that's fair to have. I think Matt Milano is the third worst injury we can suffer, genuinely. So hopefully it's nothing too serious. Lucas says, I feel like we should draft a safety in the coming draft. Poe and Hyde are only getting older, and I just don't think Jaquan is good enough. Yeah. Jaquan, he could get there if he's gonna need, somebody back there to assist him, whether if it's Jordan Poyer that's still back there. I think he can be all right, but I could see us going safety in the 2023 NFL draft, depending on the selection we have, but it's definitely in the realm of possibility considering the state of our secondary right now. Oblique injury, like we mentioned. Recent oblique injuries are 1 to 3 weeks in terms of being out. JP said it's the same elbow, but not the same injury. Interesting. Okay. Which could be a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. Yeah, we're going to have to monitor that. Thankfully, I don't like to look ahead. Every game is its own entity, and I don't like to skip. But we do get the Jets this week without Breece Hall. We've seen what Zach Wilson's brought to the table this season. So I'm thinking that we roll this week without Jordan Poyer. We roll this week without Matt Milano, knowing this injury. At the moment. So we roll without those two guys. I think we could potentially roll without Jordan Poyer as well. Did I mention that? Anybody that has an outstanding injury, I don't think we force them on the field. So this could be a week that we go to MetLife and we don't see them out there. We go out there and we play with the bare bones roster, similar to what we did against Miami. We had a lot of injuries against Miami, if I remember correctly. And I think we kind of just roll with what we got. And we don't try and force anybody out there in a game that's, of course it's important. We're trying to get that top seed and hold on to it. But it's just not worth, I don't view a bye week, in the postseason to be worth potentially injuring anybody else long-term. And how can I forget Von Miller? Okay, fair enough. Von Miller would be the third worst injury for the Bills to suffer, and then Matt Milano. Although I think Matt Milano has a case for that, right? I mean, of course, Von Miller getting hurt would be terrible, but I think, the way we've built this, defensive front, of course, that would be a tremendously large loss. But, I think the guys that we have, garnered enough confidence to really hold their own in there. Gregory Rousseau has come a long way. He was already one of the best run stoppers last season. And I think the pass rushing skills are just coming along, coming along nicely with Von Miller by his side. Jordan Phillips on the interior has been a force. So, of course, losing Von Miller would be a terribly, terribly, terribly big loss. Hypothetically, I think Matt Milano is, he's been just so damn good. I mean, I can't even emphasize how good the man has been. So losing him would be terrible. Joey says, does Trey start against the Jets? No, I think Trey White, he was activated today, but I don't believe we'll see Trey White next week. I think we'll hold him out another week. For sure in my mind. But going back to Matt Milano, I mean, unstoppable is the perfect way to put it. The dude's he's been a force to be reckoned with back there. And even when Tremaine Edmonds has struggled at points, because it has happened, he's been out there wrecking havoc, right by Tremaine Edmonds' side. So we need that man. Going back to the Browns and Cleveland game, I wanted to touch on this a little bit more. Nick Chubb is establishing himself as the best running back in the NFL. It's pretty hard to dispute it. He's been able to avoid injury up to this point, knock on wood. And he's really displayed his dominance. The Cleveland Browns offensive line has suffered a number of injuries this season. They lost both of their centers before the year even started, I think. They lost their first string center, and then they lost their second string center. This offensive line has not been the healthiest for the Browns, but Nick Chubb is just back there churning his legs. And he's pretty damn tough to bring down for no gain or for a loss. And we saw that tonight. He was the kryptonite to the Cincinnati Bengals defense. There was just nothing they can do. And once that ground game opened up, Amari Cooper, DPJ down the field, it was a long night for that struggling Bengals secondary, that defensive front seven without DJ Reader. The Bengals are, like we were talking about earlier, could potentially be in a world of hurt for the next few weeks. And I was impressed with the way that the Browns, their second level guys played. Taki, I don't even know the dude's first name, but Taki played ridiculous. He was all over the field. What's this guy's first name? I don't think I can pronounce it, honestly. It is Sion Taki. I thought he had one hell of a game tonight. He was all over the field for the Cleveland Browns. I was very impressed with Martin Emerson. They drafted him, in the 2022 NFL draft. I thought Martin Emerson was excellent. He had T. Higgins on lock pretty damn often. Greedy Williams was who T. Higgins lost, if I'm not mistaken. But I thought Martin Emerson has looked very good for the Cleveland Browns secondary so far, so that's been good. He also almost had an interception on that Tyler Boyd touchdown. He tipped the ball up and it still went to Boyd, but he almost made a play on that. Of course, they got Myles Garrett making plays in that front. Jadeveon Clowney wasn't too active tonight. We didn't hear his name too often, but he's still a force up there. A lot of guys on that Browns defense that stepped up tonight against a pretty red hot Cincinnati Bengals offense. But something else I wanted to touch on as well was just how bad Joe Mixon is. Does anybody else feel this way? Joe Mixon's terrible. Joe Mixon's bad. He's not a top 10 running back. He might not even have an argument for a top 15. This guy can't break a tackle. He gets the ball in the open field. He's usually getting ankle bit. He might fall forward every once in a while, but Joe Mixon, I mean, tonight he averaged 3.4 yards per attempt. I understand the offensive line isn't great, but you would like to expect a guy like Joe Mixon, who's got the name value that you'd expect to be able to carry the ball for an extra couple yards whenever you need him to. But this guy has been piss poor this year. I heard it mentioned and rumored last season to some capacity. And I didn't really buy into it. Joe Mixon had a good year last year. And I'm sitting here thinking, how could you possibly say Joe Mixon is bad? And this year, I really started to put, an eye to his game, and the dude just doesn't break tackles. I mean, he catches dump offs from Joe Burrow, and the guy just cannot get away from a linebacker or a corner in open space. It's remarkable, genuinely, for a guy of what's supposed to be Joe Mixon's caliber. I'm impressed with how much he struggles after contact, with how much he struggles to shake a guy in the open field. This season specifically, let me pull up his stats real quick. It's been extra bad, genuinely. Hold on, let me pull up his numbers real quick, because it's just not pretty. By player, Joe Mixon. Mixon, pass block, run blocking. Nope, not run blocking. We want rushing. All right, Joe Mixon so far this season. Okay, check this out. Check this out. We're gonna look at this real quick. Check out these Joe Mixon stats real quick. We're gonna present and do share screen. Sure. Yeah. All right, check out these Joe Mixon stats real quick. Joe Mixon on the season. PFF hate their grading system. Their stats are helpful though. Look at this. 2022 yards after contact per attempt. 2022 2.02 yards after contact per attempt. That's terrible. That is terrible. I mean, you would expect, you lump Joe Mixon into the conversation of that scary offensive unit that the Bengals have. Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. I mean, these are numbers that are not acceptable. 11 missed tackles forced, not excellent. Only 7 rushes over 10 yards this season, not excellent. I mean, these are numbers that they're not what you'd expect from a guy like Joe Mixon, man. I mean, he's just been bad. 3.3 yards per attempt, two rushing touchdowns. Check this out. Bengals red zone stats. Check this out. Nope, that's not what I want. Red zone. Here we go. I love this site. This site's very good. Fantasy Pros, although it's a fantasy website, it's very good for statistics like this. Joe Mixon, 2022, weeks 1 to 8. He's had inside the 20, 23 attempts. 23 attempts, 2 touchdowns. Let's check it out. Let's get even closer. Inside the 10. Inside the 10. Joe Mixon, inside the 10-yard line, has had 19 attempts inside the 10-yard line with 2 touchdowns. Come on. Like, are you serious? Let's check out inside the 5. How many? 12! This guy's had 12 attempts inside the 5 with 2 touchdowns. If you gave Nick Chubb this type of volume inside granted, he gets this type of volume, but still, come on. 2 touchdowns on 12 attempts inside the 5. He's 1 yard per attempt inside the 5. I mean, this is something you can't have. You can't have this. You lose Jamar Chase. You need supplement from your run game. Your offensive line is not helping you out, but you need your number 1 back to break a couple tackles, to get the run game going, to gather a rhythm for Joe Burrow, and he can't do it. He can't do it. Let's stack these numbers. I know I stopped screen sharing, but I want to stack these numbers up by the rest of the NFL. Let's check out the rest of the running backs here. We'll do receiving, rushing reports, halfbacks. Check this out. Singletary doesn't have a lot of rushing touchdowns neither. No, but he also doesn't see the volume inside the 10, inside the 5 that, Joe Mixon does. Not a lot of running backs see that type of volume inside the 10 or the 5 like Joe Mixon does. And for him only have 2 touchdowns is remarkable. Let's go back. What do we got here? Let me sort by minimum rush attempts. And okay, here we go. Let me go back to sharing real quick. This is bad. Like, these are bad numbers, guys. Really bad. Share screen. All right, go back to this. Look at this. I don't even know where he is on this list, right? We'll go yards after contact per attempt. 20%. We're shrinking the list down to running backs that actually, have gotten a sizable enough, amount of carries to actually read. Tony Pollard, holy shit, 5.02 yards after contact. That's pretty ridiculous. Let's see. Let's search. Let's do a search for Joe Mixon right quick. Doesn't even come up. He's actually not even on the list. That's crazy. That's crazy. Joe Mixon's not even here because the lowest number is Darrell Henderson at 2.44. Let's see. Let's narrow the list even more. Let's talk 50% of 166. He surely has to be on this list too, right? Surely has to be. Joe Mixon, here we go. Yep, lowest. 27th out of 27th. Joe Mixon ranks in yards after contact per attempt. Let's check out missed tackles forced. Joe Mixon, 22nd out of 24. Must be a couple ties down here, yeah. Wow. I mean, for a guy that gets, let's check out his volume too. The guy gets, He's fourth, tied for fourth in attempts. Tied for fourth in attempts. He's tied for fourth in rushing attempts, has the lowest amount of yards per attempt, has the lowest amount of yards after contact per attempt, tied for like second last in missed tackles forced. Dude's second last in yards in rushes after 10 yards. Bad. That's my rant. That's my rant. Joe Mixon needs to help him out. I mean, Joe Burrow needs help. That's my rant on that. I can rant a little bit more. T. Higgins. I was kind of touching on it earlier. T. Higgins is a guy that I think is more than talented to kind of make up for the loss of Jamar Chase. And they need to find a way to get him the ball differently than they get the ball to Jamar Chase because they're just not the same receiver. We saw that jump ball throw to T. Higgins on the sideline, and T. Higgins went up and made a play. So that was nice to see. And I think T. Higgins is, like I mentioned, like a top 14 wide receiver. So I think he can handle that type of work when given the opportunity. It's just a matter of Joe Burrow finding him like he did tonight. He struggled. He targeted him a couple times up the sideline and one-on-one. He got locked up a few times. He drew a flag as well, something to take into account. But I think T. Higgins is more than capable of carrying that type of load. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do without Jamar Chase because I really want to see T. Higgins be successful. T. Higgins is, in my opinion, one of the best jump ball receivers in the league. Terry McLaurin's really established himself as one of the better guys at high pointing the ball and coming down with the ball in contact. He came down with the ball over Stephon Gilmore to pretty much seal the game for the Washington Commanders. And that was an excellent grab on Stephon Gilmore. We saw him just absolutely father Jair Alexander 2 weeks prior. So that was, Terry McLaurin's really been on a tear lately, which is nice to see. But T. Higgins, I think, is right in that conversation for, one of the best jump ball receivers in the game. He can jump so damn high, man. The vertical that guy has it's not fair. Genuinely not fair. What's up, man? Nice to see you in here. Nice to see you in here, D. That was a sad game to watch. It was, man. I've come to the acceptance that I am like the sports betting like fade god. I'm the fade god, man. I try to put together, you guys know what a bankroll builder is? It's like pretty much where you put like a few legs together on a parlay that are more than likely to hit. The odds are like usually minus 200 at the least. And you put a bunch together and it pretty much equals out to like a plus 100, minus 110 type of parlay. And, more often than not, you'd like to think you can hit on a bet slip like that. I've been doing the bankroll builder strategy for the last few weeks now. The first time I tried it, I won. I won. Ever since then, I've lost. I'm putting damn legs on these parlays that are minus 360, minus 420. I'm throwing these what are supposed to be extremely likely legs on these parlays, and I swear to God, man, I am the fade god. The fade god. The fade god. And it's impressive. It's genuinely impressive. What did I have tonight? I had Joe Mixon over 60 rushing yards. What did Joe Mixon do tonight? Sucked ass. I should have known. I knew Joe Mixon sucked. I just thought because the Browns supposedly had a pretty weakened secondary, a pretty weakened second level at the linebacker position. I thought maybe without Jamar Chase, Zach Taylor in his infinite wisdom would attempt to establish the ground game. But instead, that wasn't the game plan apparently, and they went ahead and just passed the ball almost every play. How many rushing attempts were in this game? 9. So the Bengals go into a game without Jamar Chase, and they run the ball 9 times. Okay, Zach. We'll see how that works for you. I don't care how bad Joe Mixon is. I don't care how bad he is. He'll still get you a few yards. You got to try to establish the run when your offensive line is as bad as it is. But no, 9 rushing attempts. Okay, we'll see how that goes for you. We saw how it went for you. Joe Burrow got mauled. Idiot. Zach Taylor's an idiot. Fire Zach Taylor into the moon. Golly. Oh, and what else did I have? You'll never guess what else I had. I had my slip tonight was Joe Mixon over 60 rushing yards. It was also I did an alternate over which was 35.5, an alternate over of 35.5, and which ended up hitting, but it was 8-0 going into half. And I was like, are you kidding me? I take the alternate over at minus 450 of 35.5, and it's 8-0. The Bengals score 0 points and get shut out in the first half. It's 8-0. I'm like, seriously? Anyway, that's one of the legs that hit. The other leg was the Bengals plus 9.5. It might have even been 10.5. I might have even taken the Bengals plus 10.5 to round out a parlay of like plus 106, something like that. I mean, I had the Bengals winning this game 100,000% in the back of my mind. So I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Bengals at worst, win this game by 2 points. I mean, there's no way they don't cover plus 10. There's no way the Bengals don't cover plus 10. I don't give a shit about the narrative of Joe Burrow never beating the Browns. I don't care. I mean, that's at least what I was thinking. Lo and behold, Joe Mixon can't hit a hole for his life after he only runs the ball 8 times because Zach Taylor's a moron without Jamar Chase. And, oh, man. And, of course, the Bengals, I mean, they don't even come close to winning. They can't cover plus 9.5, plus 10.5. Like, are you joking me? I mean, I am the fade god. Anytime I place a bet that I think makes sense, done. So, you know what I did this weekend? I did another bank. This past Sunday, I did a bankroll builder. Do you know what I did? I had a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I don't even remember genuinely, but I had Derek Carr over 225 passing yards. The Las Vegas Raiders were playing against the Saints secondary, which did not have Marshawn Lattimore. Understanding the fact that the Raiders had been running the ball well, but the New Orleans Saints had a pretty stout front seven. I thought Josh Jacobs would have a tough day on the ground, right? Which ended up being the case. But I figured it would be a good enough ground game to where the Raiders, passing game would be able to pick up that slack and they'd be able to dice up a Saints secondary in which has struggled at points. The Saints secondary has not been fantastic. I thought Devonta Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Mac Hollins, they've shown up, but no. No, Derek Carr throws for just barely 100 yards. Dude's running for his life behind an offensive line that's just as pedestrian as the Cincinnati Bengals line is. Terrible. I am the betting fade. I'm the fade god. You guys know who Book It with Trent is? I am Book It with Caveman. Book It with Go Lose Your Money. You want to lose money? Call me. I will give you the most. And that's the funny part, right? I'll put a bet down, and somebody will ask me, "You got any money on the game tonight? What are you looking at tonight?" And I'll give them what I'm looking at. I'm like, you know what? I'm liking Joe Schmo tonight to rush for over 35.5 rushing yards, and I will give the best explanation. I will give the best rundown with just valid reason after valid reason as to why I think this is a good value bet. Bye. It doesn't matter what reason I give. It just doesn't matter. Anything sensible in the NFL to me at this point is worth nothing because it just feels like nothing matters anymore. Nothing makes sense. I can't even bet Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who barely missed out on the NFC Championship last year, won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, to take down the Carolina Panthers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. What else am I supposed to know at this point? I don't know anything. Do you know anything? Have you looked yourself in the mirror? Do you do pick'ems and looked yourself in the mirror and thought to yourself, man, I don't know shit? Well, I've done that every week. Every week I feel like I've done that. I actually had a good week this week. I think I had 10 wins this week. 10 wins. That's solid. But there's been at least 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks where I'm like, why do I try? Like, the motivation to post my pick'ems videos at this point is so low because I just know I'm going to get slaughtered by some bullshit. Every time I know something's going to go south. It never fails. So why my confidence to do it is so low. It's low. It's a bad feeling, especially after last year. I killed last year. I was on point last year. I had an undefeated week. I got every game right in like week 14 last year. I was on a tear. Like I was killing the game. I go into this year, balls as big as a wheelbarrow. And I'm like, I'm ready to take this year the same way I took it last year. I'm going to make some money because at that time, New York State did not have legalized sports betting. The books got legalized here in January or whatever, right before like the divisional round game. And I'm like, next year, I can't wait, man. I'm gonna be getting these pick'ems. I'm gonna kill these pick'ems. I'm gonna be able to put parlays together. I know what I'm doing. Boy, was that a rude awakening. I don't know shit about fuck. I've come to realize that, man. It's like, as much as I sit here and feel like I'm making as sensible of an argument and a case for something, it just always seems to go south. That actually, it's painful. It's painful. Do you know what? I'm out. I'm gonna keep ranting. I'm gonna keep ranting. 2 years ago, going into 2021, I was huge on the Washington. No, we'll go back even farther. Actually, man, was there another video I did that for? I think there was. I just don't remember. Anyway, rewinding back to prior to 2021, right? The Washington Commanders acquire Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have Chase Young. The defense is coming off a year where they looked ferocious. The Washington Commanders, they were poised to be at least a wild card team, right? That's at least what I was thinking going into 2021. I make a video giving every single reason why I think this is going to happen. It's one of my you can go look right now. It's one of my most viewed videos on my channel. I'm a Bills fan. I make majority Bills content. A Washington Commanders video, ironically enough, is one of my most viewed videos on my channel. It might be the most viewed. And what happens? Ryan Fitzpatrick gets hurt. Not even halfway through the first game of last year. Chase Young goes down with an injury. Suddenly the defense doesn't look anything close to what it was the year prior, and the Washington Commanders go down the drain. That's instance number one. All right. What happens this year? I pick another team that I think is going to go on a ferocious tear, that people are sleeping on, similar to how I made a video talking about the Commanders prior to 2021. This season, it was the New Orleans Saints. I was high as hell. I was higher than Cloud9, higher than Snoop Dogg on the New Orleans Saints going into this season. Made a whole video about it. Ironically enough, what happened? The New Orleans Saints hype video that I'm talking about how good they're going to be this season, also one of my most viewed videos on my channel. Also, how ironic is that? What happens to the Saints so far this season? Jameis Winston gets hurt. Michael Thomas gets hurt. Jarvis Landry gets hurt. They lose Trevor Penning, and he hasn't returned yet. Marshawn Lattimore's been out. I'm a curse. I am a curse. I'm a curse. I've accepted it. And it's leaked into my sports betting mantra. It's leaked into sports betting. I'm a curse. Everything I think makes sense. Something goes wrong every time. Every time. And I'll even elaborate even further on this. Prior to this season, I was a big Derek Carr guy. I was going crazy about Derek Carr, which, in my defense, Derek Carr has been fine this season. This past week is an exception. He's been all right. It's just been a matter of Josh McDaniels is an idiot. That's dumb. He's just been a moron. He's not helping. And also the fact that they run the ball so often that the numbers that I thought Derek Carr would end up putting up, he just never had the opportunity to do that because he doesn't throw the ball often enough. But anyway, prior to this past week, after they beat the Houston Texans and seeing the Los Angeles Chargers struggle, I made a TikTok talking about how I thought the Raiders had a very easy schedule for the next few weeks, and they were going to go on a massive tear. They're going to go on like a 6 to 7 game win streak, and they're going to sneak into the second place spot in the AFC West and take it from the Chargers, who are injury riddled. Justin Herbert's not been good this season because of the rib injury and, et cetera, et cetera. I thought the AFC West second place spot was going to be taken over by the Raiders, and they make a run for the wild card spot. What happens in week 8? What happens just 3 days later? The Las Vegas Raiders trot out on the field. The New Orleans Saints, who I have picked to win for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and they failed me every time. I go and pick the Raiders when they play against the Saints. And what happens? 24-0. I'm a curse. It's the amount of examples I have. It's rather impressive. It really is. I think I'm a curse. Like, man, it's annoying. Like it's kind of getting annoying. Like it's discouraging at times. Like I'm sitting here like, what more can I do? Like I sit here and I look at these numbers, I do my research, I form these opinions, and I'm like, this makes sense. And then it unfolds, and I'm like, it still made sense. Like, I even after the fact, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what? My logic was not flawed. My logic made complete sense. The players just didn't play. You know that? Have you guys ever seen that meme where it's like you don't suck at sports betting, the players suck at playing or something? That encompasses how I feel with the NFL this year so far. It just puts it in a nice peanut shell and just encompasses it exactly. Sorry, Mikey. I've been ranting for a little bit now. The world of sports has no explanations. I told my friend Green Bay would suck and wouldn't make the playoffs before the season started. Had no explanation, but that's how sports work. That take that you had for the Packers is a take that I had for the Bucks. I said it a number of times this season where I was like, or prior to this season, I've had, I spew a bunch of bullshit on the internet. I'm not gonna lie. Some things hit. I'm just talking about all my bad moments, but I have a couple of good ones. Prior to the season beginning, I said a ton that I think the Buccaneers they're going to stink. I don't know what it's going to be. We're not going to know why, but they're going to stink. We do know why we have a good idea why the Buccaneers stink, but I said it time and time again. The Buccaneers are not going to look like that same team we've been used to seeing them be in the regular season, and they're going to stink. And lo and behold, here we are. Unfortunately, I was too much of a biatch to reflect that in my record predictions, but I said it time and time again. I think the Buccaneers are going to go through some issues, and it's going to be Tom Brady related. I'm not going to be able to prove it, but they're going to struggle. And here we are. The Buccaneers are 3-5, tied for first in the NFC South. So, yeah, I've had a couple hits. I've had a lot of misses, but I've had a lot of hits. So, I've actually probably had more misses than hits. Let's be honest here. I'm wearing a sloth costume at 12:15 in the morning after a pointless AFC North game, talking about all of my losses. Yeah, let's be honest with ourselves here. All right, we're approaching an hour here, guys. I do work in the morning. Excellent fun, right? But if you guys have, I'm not going to end it just yet. If you guys have any other questions or any comments you guys want to throw in the comment section, I'll be more than happy to talk about it. I'm on a roll right now, so I'm happy to expand on any conversation. And very, very excited, to start doing these live streams. If this is something that you guys enjoy seeing, these live streams after primetime games, I think I can start doing it. There's plenty to talk about in the NFL on a week-to-week basis, and it's hard to kind of get to all of it. And live streaming is a bit easier for me because I just don't have to do all the editing and stuff, as I would have to do for a regular video. So I don't want to get entirely away from the regular pre-recorded, chopped up videos that I usually do, because that's been my bread and butter up to this point, man. I don't want to get away from that. But these live streams definitely are a breath of fresh air to let me talk freely, cover a lot of ground, and it just doesn't take as much time. It just does not take as much time. It's a nice breath of fresh air. Mike says, my hottest take I've ever made was the Peterman game. Everyone gassed him, and I told Logan and Patrick in graphic design he'd throw 5 picks and be pulled for no way. Now that's something if you would have had like in writing, like people would have thought you were a mind reader. Like that would have been ridiculous. That's like one of those things, like, well, not to talk on a sore subject, but there was a tweet that went viral after, God bless, Kobe Bryant passed away in that helicopter accident. There was a tweet that went viral from like 2012. It was of some random Twitter account saying Kobe Bryant will pass away in a helicopter crash in this year. And it was when he passed away. Like that was spooky. Like that's kind of what that reminded me of. That's funny. Keep up the live streams. I definitely will, man. I appreciate you. It's back-to-back nights, man. It's, these are things I definitely notice it. So I really appreciate it, dude. You personally, have, you motivate, like, your kind words definitely motivated me to go back at it tonight. And, that's a genuine statement. So I appreciate it, dude, for sure. But yeah, I think I'll probably wrap it up here though. Covered a lot of ground tonight. It was a fun one. Definitely going to try and keep these up. But I gotta get some rest, work in the morning. unfortunately. But I've had a blast tonight, guys. I was a lot more tempo than I felt as of late, and this was a really good one. So I really appreciate everybody that stopped in tonight. Left your thoughts, left your comments. I will be going live tomorrow night once again for my regularly scheduled show. The Cave. I'll be going live at 8 p.m. tomorrow night for The Cave. I'll have Hansel from Cover One joining me tomorrow night. I've had him on before. He's fantastic. Hansel's great. I'm looking forward to breaking down Week 8 and going into Week 9 with him. So be sure you're tuning in at 8 p.m. tomorrow night for that. Wednesday night, I'll probably stay off, but then on Thursday, I'll definitely probably be back at it after the Thursday night game. So thank you guys for all stopping in. I appreciate you all, and like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see y'all later. Go Bills. Peace.